Jimin found the note Jungkook hid years ago. His face said everything. You weren't supposed to find this, Taehyung. The voice echoed like a ghost from the past. The attic was silent except for the creaking wood beneath Jimin's feet and the whisper of dust swirling through slits of cold light. He had only come up here to escape the noise downstairs, the laughter, the cameras, the fake smiles. He didn't expect to find the past. His fingers trembled slightly as he unfolded the yellowed, water-stained note he'd found tucked between the panels behind the old upright piano. His name was written on the outside in Jungkook's handwriting, messy, rushed, but unmistakably his. Jimin hadn't seen that handwriting in 4 years. His heart beat like a war drum. The scent of aged paper and cedar filled his lungs, grounding him just enough to read. If you're reading this, it means I failed. He froze. The words clawed at him, pulling him back into memories he'd buried. Jungkook's sudden departure. The silence. The day everything fractured and no one said why. He read on. Don't tell Namjoon Taehyung. Don't tell anyone. I'm writing this because if I disappear, I need you to know it wasn't an accident. It started with a whisper, a deal, a mistake. Jimin's knees buckled, and he sank against the piano bench, breath shallow, eyes wide. Everything felt wrong. The light in the attic shifted, shadows lengthening across the floor. The temperature dropped, or maybe it was just the chill rising from his own blood. I was supposed to keep it safe, but I lost it, Jimin. I lost it, and now I don't know who I can trust, except you. I always trusted you. He looked up, the note trembling in his hands. The words blurred as a tear fell silently onto the page. He'd trusted Jungkook too. Even when the others whispered theories behind closed doors. Even when Taehyung said he saw Jungkook arguing with a stranger in a black coat 2 nights before he vanished. Even when the label shut everything down and called it burnout and rest. The lies had never sat right with Jimin. But this note was a blade, slicing open everything he thought he'd made peace with. There's a room beneath the studio. You'll need the key. It's still inside the metronome. You know the one. If you find it, you'll find out what I did. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Jimin's mouth went dry. He turned toward the staircase, the world narrowing to the thud of his heartbeat and the rustle of the note between his fingers. Every step he took back down the attic stairs felt heavier, like gravity itself was trying to keep him from moving forward. In the hallway, the metronome still sat atop the shelf where they used to store old equipment. Nobody ever touched it. It was silent, forgotten, a relic from their trainee days. His hands moved before his brain caught up. He flipped open the base. Inside, a rusted key. He stared at it. What had Jungkook done? The studio basement had been locked for years, under renovation according to the official statement. But Jimin had always known it was a lie. No one had gone near it, not since the incident. He walked through the old practice rooms like a ghost retracing its own death. Memories flickered around him, sweat-slicked rehearsals, laughter between verses, fights that never healed. Jungkook's voice echoed in the back of his mind, bright, reckless, warm. Until it was. At the bottom of the staircase, he hesitated. The key felt cold in his palm. The door loomed like a tombstone. He slid the key in. Click. The door groaned open. The darkness inside wasn't empty. It pressed against him like a living thing, and the scent that greeted him was something he couldn't name, something metallic, old, and wrong. He stepped inside. The light flickered once, then steadied. What he saw made him stagger. On the far wall photos, dozens of them, candid shots, press images, rehearsals. Backstage, the entire room was covered in pieces of their life, his Jungkook, the group. Strings connected them like veins. Notes were scribbled on tape. Red ink circled certain faces. But what chilled him most was the center of the collage. A single photo of Jimin. And underneath, in Jungkook's handwriting. If he finds this, it's already too late. Jimin stepped back. Something shifted behind him. He spun. Nothing. But he wasn't alone. Not anymore. Title, Jimin found the note Jungkook hid years ago. His face said everything. You knew about this, didn't you? Namjoon's voice thundered through the practice room like a gavel hitting wood. Jimin flinched, gripping the wrinkled note in his jacket pocket like it could protect him. The tension in the air cracked like static. Hoseok stood nearby, silent, arms crossed tight over his chest, jaw clenched. I just found it, Jimin said, trying to keep his voice steady, though it was trembling with adrenaline and something else, betrayal maybe. In the attic, behind the piano, this changes everything. You should have come to us first, Namjoon hissed. His usual calm was gone, replaced by something raw, unfiltered. You went into the basement alone. You opened that room after everything we've done to keep it sealed. Because you sealed the truth, Jimin snapped, stepping forward. His eyes burned. You knew something happened. You all kept pretending like he just walked away. You lied. You all lied to me. Seokjin entered just then, his gaze sweeping across the room, taking in the sharp edges of emotion, the cracks forming beneath their foundation. What happened now? He asked, voice low, cautious. Jimin reached into his jacket and threw the crumpled note onto the floor. Seokjin picked it up, scanned it, and his expression drained of color. Namjoon tried to take it from him, but Seokjin didn't let go. Don't, Seokjin said. Don't touch this. You already read it, Namjoon said flatly. Don't act like it's a revelation. It is a revelation, Jimin growled. You all made me believe he left us because he was tired, burnt out, gone. You made me bury him in my head, and he was crying for help. Silence. Then Hoseok spoke. You think you're the only one who cared about him. His voice cracked on the last word. You think we didn't lose something too. Then why didn't you fight? Jimin asked. Why did you let it go? Why did you? Because he told me not to, Hoseok cut in, voice tight. The night before he disappeared, he called me, said if I loved him, I'd forget, that it was better if I acted like he never existed. Jimin blinked, the room twisted, cold. You talked to him, he whispered. You never told me. Because he asked me not to, Hoseok roared, tears brimming. You weren't the only one hurting Jimin. Jimin's fists clenched. And now he's gone. And this, he gestured toward the basement, this whole conspiracy, whatever it is, has his fingerprints all over it. He was scared. He left clues. That's not the kind of thing someone does when they plan to disappear. Jin lowered the note. There's more, he said. I never told anyone, but months before Jungkook left, he gave me a drive, said to keep it hidden until I couldn't lie to myself anymore. The room stilled. Where is it? Namjoon asked. Jin hesitated. Home, in my studio drawer. I never opened it. I thought it was just music files, maybe lyrics, but now. I want it, Jimin said. Namjoon shook his head. We should all see it together. Jimin's glare was sharp. No, I trusted you once. You don't get blind faith anymore. Before anyone could respond, Taehyung burst through the door, panting, eyes wide with alarm. You need to come. Now, the studio's been broken into. What? Namjoon's head snapped toward him. Taehyung nodded, breathless. The basement door, it's wide open. Someone been inside, and they took something. Panic sliced through the group like lightning. They rushed through the halls, feet pounding, hearts thundering. The basement door stood ajar, lock twisted and broken. The one dormant room was now a hurricane of torn papers, shattered glass, and missing photographs. The red string from Jungkook's strange collage had been yanked off the wall, the pins strewn across the floor like casualties of war. They were looking for something, Jin muttered, scanning the chaos. Or hiding something they found, Taehyung said. We're being watched. Jimin stepped into the room, trying to make sense of what was missing. But then he saw it. In the far corner, almost obscured behind an overturned cabinet, was a smear of red across the floor. Not ink, not paint, blood. He dropped to his knees, heart slamming against his ribcage. Someone bled here, he whispered. Taehyung knelt beside him, fingers grazing the edge of the stain. Fresh. Namjoon's phone buzzed. He looked down and paled. What is it? Jimin asked. Namjoon turned the screen toward them. A message, no sender. Just 5 chilling words. You weren't supposed to look. Silence suffocated them all. Then the lights above flickered, once, twice. Blackout. Panic erupted. Jimin grabbed Taehyung's arm in the darkness. Somewhere behind them, a crash, someone falling. Jin cursed. Hosok's voice called out, but it was swallowed by the pitch black. Then a sound. Soft, almost childlike. Whistling. A haunting melody Jimin hadn't heard in years. Jungkook's lullaby, the one he hummed when he couldn't sleep, the one he played with one hand on the piano when he thought no one was listening. Did you hear that? Jimin whispered. Yes, Taehyung said, voice shaking. The lights blinked back on. The room was empty, except for them. No sign of a break-in, no broken cabinet, no blood. Everything was clean. Too clean. Namjoon stood slowly, face ashen. We didn't imagine that. We couldn't have. Jimin looked down at his hand. The note was gone. Replaced with a single photo. It was a candid shot of Jimin and Jungkook, taken years ago, one Jimin didn't remember posing for. But it wasn't the image that froze him. It was the writing on the back. You're close, but not ready. And beneath it, a date. Tomorrow. You think this is a game. Jimin's voice cracked like a whip as he slammed the photo onto the table in Jin's studio. His hands were shaking, his knuckles pale from how hard he gripped the edge. You think someone playing dress-up in Jungkook's lullaby is just some twisted scavenger hunt. No one said it was a game, Namjoon said, arms crossed, standing firm despite the fire in Jimin's eyes. But panicking isn't going to help us figure out what's going on. That wasn't panic, Jimin snarled. That was fear. You should try it sometime. It's what people feel when the dead start whispering again. He's not dead, Taehyung muttered from the corner, barely audible. They all froze. What did you say? Hosok asked. Taehyung raised his head. He's not dead. I don't believe it. I never did. You can feel it. He's close, watching. You want to believe that, Namjoon said softly, but there's no proof. Then explain the message, Jimin cut in, grabbing the phone and pulling up the text again. Explain the blood that disappeared, the whistling, the photo with tomorrow's date scrawled on the back. Who else would know that lullaby? Silence. Jin finally moved, walking toward the corner drawer. He pulled out a small black USB drive and held it up between 2 fingers. This is what Jungkook gave me. You never opened it, Jimin said, his tone no longer accusing, just tired. You had this all this time and you didn't even look. Because I was afraid, Jin admitted. Afraid that opening it would mean accepting that he was never coming back. He plugged it into his laptop. A single file. Untitled, MP4. Jin clicked it. The video started with static, then a low hum like an old machine struggling to breathe. The camera jolted and then steadied. Jungkook appeared on screen, disheveled, eyes bloodshot, sweat glistening on his neck. The background was a concrete room, the lighting dim and sickly yellow. Taehyung, he whispered. If you're seeing this, then they've found me, or they will soon. Jimin stepped closer, breath shallow. I messed up. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could protect you all by taking the deal alone. But it wasn't just a deal. It was a trap, and now I'm running out of time. Jungkook's eyes darted off-screen, as if hearing something. They said I'd be famous forever, that our legacy would never fade. All they wanted was a piece. I didn't know what that meant, not really. But once I signed, I started changing, seeing things, hearing things. They live in the silence in the corners of the mirrors. Namjoon stepped back, pale. I left clues, Jungkook continued. You'll find them, Jimin, you'll find them, because you always saw through me. Jimin's heart twisted. They want me to forget who I was, but I wrote everything down, locked it away. If you find the music box, play the melody backwards. That's where it starts. The truth is buried beneath the sound. The screen flickered again. Jungkook's face twisted in fear. They're coming. The video cut to black. No outro, no title, just silence. Jimin turned away, his jaw tight, tears threatening to fall. What the hell did he get involved with? Some kind of occult bullshit, Namjoon muttered. Those contracts we all joked about back in trainee days, maybe they weren't jokes to him. We all signed the same contracts, Hoseok said, his voice hollow. So why him? Because he was the youngest, Taehyung whispered. The most vulnerable. He'd do anything to protect us, to prove he was more than just the Maknae. Jimin walked to the shelf, pulled down the old wooden music box Jungkook had once gifted him. A ballerina twirled slowly when opened, dancing to a gentle melody, the one Jungkook used to whistle. He turned the mechanism backward. The melody reversed. Something clicked beneath the velvet lining. Jimin pried it open. A small envelope, inside a Polaroid. 7 figures cloaked in shadows, their faces hidden, but Jimin's breath caught as he recognized the shape of one, tall, lean, tattooed fingers barely visible. Jungkook. Behind them, the background was unmistakable. The old underground metro station near Apgujeong, the one abandoned since the fire 5 years ago. We need to go there, Jimin said. Now, Namjoon asked. It's past midnight, that place is condemned, dangerous. So is doing nothing, Jimin snapped. Taehyung grabbed his coat. Then let's go. The station was a graveyard of memories and ash. Their footsteps echoed against concrete and steel. Graffiti marked the walls like blood splatter, crude symbols, and Latin phrases none of them could translate. Down here, Jimin said, leading them through a collapsed passageway. The air grew colder, heavier. They reached the platform, then stopped. A single figure stood at the far end, half shrouded in darkness. He didn't move, just stood there. Jungkook, Jimin called out. The figure took a step forward and collapsed. Jimin rushed ahead, falling to his knees beside the body. But it was Jungkook. It was a man in a black coat, throat slit, eyes wide in frozen terror. In his pocket, a flash drive. Jimin pulled it out with shaking hands. Writ on the label, one word. Salvation. From the shadows behind them, a voice. You were warned not to look. They turned and saw nothing. Just darkness. But someone had been there. Watching. Waiting. Title, Jimin found the note Jungkook hid years ago. His face said everything. Put it down, Jimin, slowly. Namjoon's voice was barely louder than the hiss of wind crawling through the broken tunnels, but it cut sharper than a scream. Jimin was kneeling beside the corpse, the word salvation glowing on the tiny flash drive like a curse, his fingers already curled around it. Don't touch me, Jimin snapped without looking back. His chest felt like it was splitting open. You don't get to tell me what to do anymore. This man was murdered, Namjoon said, stepping closer. And someone was just here. Whoever they are, they wanted that drive. That means it's dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous, Jimin shot back. He finally looked up, eyes wet, feral. Jungkook bled for this, I can feel it. Taehyung hovered behind them, scanning the shadows like they might start moving on their own. We should go, right now. This place is wrong. My ears are ringing. Hoseok swallowed hard. Mine too, like something, screaming, but I can't hear it. Jimin stood, sliding the flash drive into his pocket. We leave when I say we leave. Seokjin stared at him. You're not the leader. No, Jimin said softly, but I'm the one he trusted. They didn't argue after that. They climbed out of the metro station in silence, each step feeling like a retreat from a battlefield they hadn't chosen, but could no longer escape. Back at Jin's studio, the tension detonated the second the door closed. You're becoming reckless, Namjoon said, finally losing his composure. You ran toward a corpse like you were chasing a ghost. Because I am chasing a ghost, Jimin yelled. 4 years of pretending he didn't exist almost killed me, Namjoon. I wake up hearing his laugh. I dream about his hands shaking when he was scared and pretending not to be. I don't care about protocol or safety. I care about the truth. And what if the truth destroys us? Namjoon fired back. Maybe it already has. Taehyung slammed his fist against the wall. Stop it, all of you. He's not some puzzle box. He was our family. Jimin's breath stuttered. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the flash drive. Then let's find out what he died for. They crowded around the laptop again. Jin inserted the drive. A folder opened. 7 files. Each one named after them. Jimin's heart stopped. What is this? Open yours, Hoseok whispered. Jimin clicked on Jimin Final, TXT. The file was a journal. Jungkook's words spilled across the screen like blood from a reopened wound. I followed you because you were my compass. When I lost myself, I looked at you and remembered who I was supposed to be. Jimin pressed his hand to his mouth, choking. They told me you were the key, that your voice, your presence, your smile anchored something ancient. I didn't believe them at first. I thought it was a metaphor, but it is. You don't know what you are, Jimin. None of you do. Hoseok let out a shaky laugh. This is insane. They call it resonance. 7 voices forming a seal. That's why they don't want us to disband. That's why the contracts never expire. We aren't artists to them. We're components. What does that even mean? Jin asked. Namjoon leaned closer, reading the next lines aloud. They harvest moments of despair. That's when the barrier thins. When fans cry, when we break on stage, when one of us disappears. The room felt smaller, thicker. Jimin scrolled. I volunteered to be the fracture. I thought if I carried the burden alone, the rest of you would be safe. But I was wrong. They don't take one. They take all. Slowly. Taehyung backed away from the screen. He let himself be taken. To save us, Jimin said hoarsely. Another line glowed like a warning flare. If you're reading this and I'm not there, it means the ritual failed or evolved. And if it evolved, you're not alone anymore. A knock shattered the silence. 3 slow taps at the studio door. Every head snapped toward it. No, Hoseok whispered. No one knows we're here. The knocking came again, louder. Open up, Jimin. The voice was unmistakable. Jungkook. Jimin moved on instinct, his feet carrying him across the room before anyone could stop him. His hand hovered over the handle, heart roaring in his ears. Namjoon grabbed his arm. Don't, it's not him. Jimin shook him off. You don't get to decide that. He opened the door. The hallway was empty. But on the floor lay a single sheet of paper. Jimin picked it up with shaking hands. On the back, in Jungkook's handwriting. I told you not to trust your eyes. Then who the hell can we trust? Jimin's voice shattered the silence in Jin's studio, trembling with equal parts desperation and fury. The note in his hand felt like ice, Jungkook's scrawled warning burning into his skin. I told you not to trust your eyes. Every word he thought was real now felt like a carefully staged performance, every sound a manipulated echo, every truth a crafted illusion. Maybe no one, Jin said quietly, packing. Maybe that's the whole point. Taehyung was leaning against the wall, his face pale, hands shaking as he held a half-empty water bottle he hadn't sipped from in over 10 minutes. That knock, he whispered. It sounded exactly like him. I even smelled his cologne. I saw a shadow under the door, Hoseok muttered. Feet, I swear it wasn't empty. It's a hallucination, Namjoon said, too quickly. Some kind of shared hysteria. We're tired, we're stressed. We just saw a dead man, we're projecting. You don't believe that, Jimin growled. Not after the metro, not after the video. Don't you dare start gaslighting us because you're scared. Namjoon's jaw clenched, but he didn't respond. Jimin turned back to the paper and held it up for everyone to see. This was real, the same ink, the same handwriting. The same warning he left me in the first note. He's trying to help, but he's being watched or controlled or, his voice cracked, or something worse. What if we're being studied? Taehyung said suddenly. They all turned to him. He looked up slowly. What if all this is part of a bigger experiment? What if they want to see how far we'll go before we break? How far the illusion can stretch before we claw through it? That's insane, Jin said. So is all of this, Taehyung snapped. A hidden basement, a dead man with a flash drive containing files named after us, a ghost knocking on the door. Wake up, Hyung. Nothing about this is normal. Jimin sat down heavily, the adrenaline in his system turning into a sickening nausea. I keep thinking about what he said in the video, that we're components, that our voices resonate. What the hell does that even mean? Maybe it's why we worked, Hoseok murmured. Maybe it wasn't just chemistry or hard work. Maybe something else held us together, something we didn't understand. Namjoon ran both hands through his hair, suddenly looking 10 years older. No, I refuse to believe we were just pawns in some supernatural machine. That everything, the years, the music, the love from fans, was fake. Not fake, Jimin said. Engineered. Jin turned to the laptop. Then we need to look at the other files, the ones named after us. No, Jimin said, standing. Not yet. Why? Jin asked. Because if those files tell us what they see when they look at us, we won't be able to unsee it. Silence settled in again, heavy and suffocating. Then Jimin added, and if any of us are compromised, they'll know what we know the second we open those files. What do you mean compromised? Hoseok asked slowly. Jimin looked around the room. Something in his face had changed. Think about it, he said. Jungkook said they don't take one, they take all, slowly. What if they've already started? What if someone in this room is fully themselves anymore? No, Taehyung whispered. We've all changed, Jimin continued, voice low. We blamed trauma, grief, pressure. But what if that wasn't it? What if it's them eating us from the inside one by one? You're being paranoid, Namjoon said, his tone dangerously calm. Am I? Jimin asked, taking a step closer. You've been the one most eager to shut things down, dismiss the videos, explain the messages, hide the basement. Tell me, Hyung, what exactly are you afraid we'll find? Back off, Namjoon said coldly. Or what? Jimin dared him. You'll lie again, like you did the day he disappeared. Namjoon moved so fast the others didn't have time to react. He shoved Jimin back against the wall, forearm pressed against his chest, face inches from his. You don't know what I've done to keep this group alive, Namjoon hissed. You don't know what I've sacrificed. Then maybe it's time you told us, Jimin said, not blinking. Namjoon's arm trembled. Then he let go and stepped back, panting. I made a deal. The words dropped like a detonator. Jin stood slowly. What kind of deal? Namjoon didn't look at anyone. After the Seoul incident, the fire at the metro, you remember the reports, faulty wiring, no casualties, but that was a lie. Jungkook was there, he saw something, or maybe someone, and after that night he changed. Hoseok was pale. You lied to the police. I lied to everyone, Namjoon said. Because a man in a gray suit came to me the next day and told me if we didn't bury the story, something worse would happen. He handed me a contract. Said the group would be protected as long as we stayed active, that our influence was part of a containment protocol. You sold us, Jimin whispered. I saved you, Namjoon replied, but his voice cracked. We were already in too deep. Jungkook knew it, that's why he left. No, Taehyung said. He didn't leave, he was taken. The lights flickered. All of them froze. Jin looked at the laptop. The screen had gone black. But then letters began to appear. Together you shine, alone you fracture. Jimin backed away, voice barely audible. They're in. The screen blinked again. You opened the door. Now you'll learn why it was locked. From the speakers came a sound none of them could place, static at first, but then shaped like breath, then whispers, then a voice. Not Jungkook. Something older. Something cold. Sing for me. And then everything went black. It began with a scream, ragged, raw, and unmistakably Hoseok. Then chaos. Chairs scraped. Someone fell. Jimin's shoulder slammed into a cabinet as the darkness thickened around them like molasses. He couldn't see anything, couldn't tell if his eyes were closed or wide open. It didn't matter. There was no light, no direction, just noise. That voice still lingered in the air, coiling around them. Sing for me. It wasn't a request, it was a command. Turn it off, Jin shouted somewhere in the pitch. I can't, it's not responding, Namjoon barked back. The sound of frantic typing echoed, broken by the dull thuds of someone hitting keys in panic. Then, in the black, came a single piano note. Middle C. Soft, isolated, echoing. Jimin's breath hitched. The next note followed, G then another. A melody forming, achingly familiar, reverse-engineered from a lullaby he hadn't heard in years. Jungkook, Jimin called, stepping toward the sound. If this is you, if you're in there, give me a sign. No reply, just the piano. Then a whisper. You opened it. The light snapped back on like a gunshot. Blinding, clinical. They stood in the studio, but it wasn't the studio. Everything looked wrong. The walls were too clean, too white. Like a sanitized simulation. The posters on the walls were still of them, but subtly different. Jimin's smile was too wide. Jin's eyes were dark hollows. Namjoon's face was blurred entirely. What the hell? Taehyung muttered, spinning in place. Is this real? Hoseok asked, voice breaking. Are we dreaming? Did something drug us? Did someone? No, Jimin whispered. We're inside something. The laptop sat on the desk, now glowing with a dull red hue. The screen displayed a countdown, 00:05:57. What is that? Jin asked. Looks like a timer, Namjoon said. We're being tested. Tested for what? Taehyung demanded. What do they want from us? The answer came in the form of a song, their song. But twisted. The melody of their debut track filtered through hidden speakers, distorted and slowed, the lyrics warped into dissonant pleas. Their voices, but not them. Like someone else wearing their skin and trying to mimic what once was. They're mocking us, Hoseok said. No, Jimin corrected. They're reconstructing us. What does that mean? Jin asked. Jimin turned to face them all. Jungkook said we were components, voices in a resonance. 7 pieces that form a seal. What if this whole simulation is their way of rebuilding the seal now that it's fractured? They're using our memories, Namjoon said. Our music, trying to rebuild us from the inside out. The countdown ticked to 00:03:44. A new door appeared on the far wall. There hadn't been a door before. It was heavy steel with a red handle and above it a sign. Only one leaves. No, Taehyung whispered. No, I'm not doing this. They want us to turn on each other, Namjoon said. That's what this is, some kind of psychological chokehold. The countdown continued, 00:02:58. Maybe we don't play, Jin said. Maybe we all refuse to go through. And if that kills us, Hoseok asked. You saw what they can do. That man in the tunnel, he bled out alone. We're not like him, Jimin said. What if we are? Taehyung asked. What if this is what Jungkook was trying to escape from, not just them, but us? Jimin looked at him, really looked. Taehyung was trembling. His eyes weren't wild, they were terrified. But beneath the fear there was guilt, a flicker of it. What did you do? Jimin asked. What are you talking about? Taehyung replied too quickly. You've been jumpy since we found the drive. You've been saying things, right things, like you knew what was coming. I'm scared, Jimin, that's all. No, Namjoon said slowly. He's right. You knew the lullaby before we heard it. You said the words they're watching before we found the cameras. That's not fear, that's knowledge. Taehyung stepped back. You think I'm one of them. The door clicked. Unlocked. Open. The room seemed to breathe. You made a deal, Jimin said, stepping toward him. Didn't you? Taehyung looked down. Then he nodded. I didn't know what it meant, he said quietly. Back then, we were all burning out. I was afraid. I wanted peace. So when the man came to me, the same man you saw, Namjoon, I said yes. What did he offer you? Jin asked. An exit. Hoseok's voice cracked. You were going to leave. No, Taehyung said, crying now. I was supposed to disappear like Jungkook, but when the time came, I couldn't do it. I told him I changed my mind. That's when Jungkook volunteered instead. He took my place. Jimin's knees nearly buckled. You let him go, he whispered. You let him go. I thought he'd survive it, Taehyung sobbed. He always did. He said he'd find a way back. The countdown hit 00, 01, 00. Namjoon turned to the door. So that's what this is, redemption or punishment. We can't let it be either, Jimin said. We choose a third way. There is no third way, said a voice behind them. They turned. Jungkook stood there. Or something like him. His eyes were hollowed out like blackened glass. His body flickered at the edges like a corrupted file. But it was him, his outline, his presence. They won't stop, he said. You're already inside the construct. The only way out is to break the loop. How? Jimin asked, voice shaking. You already know, Jungkook whispered. Sing for me together one last time. Jimin blinked, confused. Why? Because that's what breaks the seal, Jungkook said. Not your fear, not your silence, your harmony. The countdown hit 00, 00, 10. Now, Jungkook urged, before the door chooses for you. Jimin turned to the others. Sing. And without waiting, he opened his mouth and began. His voice cracked. It was raw, too dry, too tight, but it rang out. One by one, the others joined in. Hoseok shaky but clear, Jin strong, Namjoon reluctant but deep, Taehyung broken but beautiful. The melody wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. The moment the last note hit the air, the countdown stopped. 00, 00, 01. The lights flickered. Then everything shattered. Like glass, the simulation collapsed around them. The room broke open into a blinding white void. Jimin blinked, and suddenly they were outside. Night air, real stars, concrete beneath their feet, the studio behind them dark and locked. They were alone. And in Jimin's hand, without knowing how it got there, was a phone. One message. From Jungkook. You found the way, but they're not done. Not yet. The message stayed on Jimin's screen for a long time, its digital silence somehow louder than any scream. You found the way, but they're not done. Not yet. The others gathered around him, reading it together, their shoulders touching, wounded but still standing. None of them spoke. What could they say? They had escaped something they couldn't name, a place built from memory and manipulation, from fear and song. But this wasn't over. Not with that message. Not with the truth they now carried. Jimin slid the phone into his pocket like it was a sacred relic. He's alive, he whispered. Somewhere. Namjoon looked at him. Or what's left of him is. No, Jimin said. He's still in there. We heard his voice, felt his presence. He reached through whatever that place was and brought us back. He chose us. Jin sank onto the curb outside the studio, head in his hands. Then, what do we do now? We don't run, Hoseok said quietly. Not anymore. We finish what he started, Taehyung added, voice hoarse but certain. We expose them. The contracts, Namjoon murmured, eyes narrowed as if staring at something far away. The agency, the handlers, the men in the gray suits, they built this, or at least let it happen. They're afraid of us, Jimin said, standing taller, because they can't control us anymore. Silence fell again, not of fear but of decision. Days passed. The group went quiet publicly, no press releases, no new appearances. Their fans speculated endlessly. Comebacks were rumored, scandals imagined, theories spread like wildfire, but none of them mattered. Because behind the silence, something greater was happening. Together, they gathered every file Jungkook had hidden, every encrypted message, every audio distortion and reversed vocal line, every old performance where he had tried to signal them, gestures, eye movements, missed cues that now made horrifying sense. He had been crying out all along. And they had missed it. But no more. On the 7th day, a live stream appeared on their official channel. It wasn't announced. It wasn't promoted. It simply began. A single camera, no stage, no styling, Just the six of them sitting in a circle lit by soft amber light. And between them, an empty seventh chair. Jimin looked into the lens. His voice was clear. We were lied to. Namjoon continued. Used. Jin watched. Taehyung controlled. Hoseok broken. They spoke in turns. No filters. No script. The broadcast was raw, vulnerable, filled with long silences, tears that came and weren't wiped away, confessions they had buried for years. Jimin ended it. But this isn't a goodbye. This is a beginning, because we're taking it back, all of it, the music, the truth. And when Jungkook returns, and he will, he'll see that we kept fighting. They didn't end with a song. Just silence. And when the screen faded to black, the final message appeared, white text over darkness. They tried to erase him, but you can't delete a voice once it's heard. The world exploded. Fans rallied. The industry reeled. Whistleblowers emerged. And in the shadows, the system that had hunted them for years began to fracture. They had broken the loop. But the war was still coming. A week later, Jimin sat alone in the old practice room, staring at the metronome. It clicked in quiet rhythm. And then, slowly, it stopped ticking on its own. A familiar hum filled the space. Behind him, a voice, quiet, hoarse, real. You finally heard me. Jimin turned. And there he was. Jungkook. Thin, pale, eyes haunted but alive. Jimin didn't say anything, didn't need to. He walked over and pulled him into a trembling hug. The war wasn't over. But the lost had returned. And this time, they wouldn't let him go. The end